Here we go.
All right, we are bringing you the news on MeteorJS and sharing resources, current events, and other information, both for those hearing about Meteor for the first time, as well as for veteran users, to keep you informed about the current state of the art. Excuse me. This week we asked, is there an easy way to tell if your packages are compatible with MeteorJS? If you pay attention this week, you'll notice the flicker of flames running through our discussions today. Blaze.js, anyone? And you'll want to stay until the end to learn more about one of the holy grails of web development, isomorphism. We describe it, we'll talk about why it's important to MeteorJS's identity, and we'll ask a couple of questions. Does MeteorJS still support it? And, will 3.0 break it? How do you revive a 10-year-old MeteorJS project when the world has changed around it? And finally, why is Daniel Dornhardt with us today, and what does he have to share? These and more on This Week in MeteorJS. So I just want to share that you're watching or listening to This Week in MeteorJS, a weekly news segment of the MeteorJS Dispatches podcast. Your hosts today are Jan Küster from Bremen, Germany. He's waving right there. Jan Dvorak, also known as Storyteller CZ in Prague, Czechia, and me, Alim Gafar, in New York City. We are all MeteorJS Community Ambassadors, and we're joined today by Daniel Dornhardt in Limassol, Cyprus. Daniel is a longtime MeteorJS developer. He's here today to highlight his journey migrating apps to 3.0, and specifically, he'll be discussing some of the challenges that they've been facing with Blaze.js. So if you've joined us before, we start with listener feedback and jump into the news, and we follow up by going through the features, and then we hit reminders and talk about what's coming next week. The features this week include shout-outs, useful resources, deep dive updates, and discussion on isomorphism and Blaze.js in the 3.0 regime. And let's just get right to the feedback that we've gotten from the comments from last week's episode. Michael Scharf writes, I wonder if there's a tool that can check my Meteor dependencies in the .meteorjs/versions file for 3.0 compatibility. I responded in the comments last week and suggested asking the question to some specific people, and Storyteller has volunteered to comment on this. So I'm going to turn that over to Jan.
Yes, sadly, I don't have a good answer to you because I have no knowledge of any tool that can do that. Last week, we've discussed about how we can, as a package maintainers, let people know that we are compatible with 3.0, 2.0, or anything in between. As of this time, I have no knowledge of a tool that can just, that you can just type in a terminal and that would check and see which one it is. That's because of two reasons. First of all, we don't have any indication in the packages themselves. So the tool then would have to go through all the packages and figure out if they are compatible, and that would probably have to be some sort of manual list or something. So there isn't anything like that yet, but if anybody is interested in doing that, let me know. I'll be happy to provide feedback, and if you're doing a manual list, I'll be happy to help with that as well.
Jan, I think you had mentioned, I'm forgetting whether or not it was in a chat or privately or on a forum, about some modifications that might be made to packages in the future to help identify that, right?
Yes, that was, we've started discussing on the forums. For more information, recommend people to watch last week or check out the forums. We have a thread there trying to figure out how do we do that in the best way so that Atmosphere and Packosphere could also potentially pick that up.
Okay, and what we'll do is we'll include that link in the show description down below later this week. All right, and with that, thank you, Jan. I think we're going to jump right into the news, and this is news typically is a production of the Jan brothers, And so I'm going to pass it back again to Jan, and you can go forward with that.
So first, kind of a news. There has been for a long time a request to give people more information about how to scale Meteor and all that stuff. So we've kind of taken a first step towards that this week, was it last week, when my pull request to create like a initial guide for scaling has been accepted. And it is not, it tells you like, oh, do this code and use this package, all that stuff. Instead, it's what I did. I've taken multiple articles and talks and kind of tried to boil them down, because every application is different. So you will have to, create something, or the approach is going to differ for every application. This is also, you could say, the initial version. So we are just getting started. So if you have any experiences with scaling Meteor, I would highly encourage you to now submit pull requests and expand this guide or add additional resources here. This will be out with the next Meteor release, or whenever they deploy a new version of the guide. So, and off to Jan's adventures in reviving old Meteor projects.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this emerged rather naturally, because there was this article on the bun hype, and we covered the bun hype a few episodes ago. And if you don't know, then you may check out our older episodes. Actually, this author, he wrote about how Bun might do the same mistakes again as Yarn already did. And if you don't know about what happened there, I suggest you to check out the article. It's linked in the forums, as you have, it's linked in the forums post, and it's also linked in my article.
Can I say?
He also mentions the MeteorJS.
Can I mention? Like, I read it.
That, he was not able to recover his very old Meteor project, and it was an 0.8.3 project, so it was pre 1.0 from 2014, and he said it's not possible, and I took the chance to rewriting or migrating it to 2.13.3, and this worked out pretty good. And the whole idea why I put that into an article was basically because this is a topic that's interesting for all of us. Many people, especially those who are longer in the MeteorJS community, know that the very old projects are somewhere around, they exist, and they still have this issue to make them compatible or make them somehow run on the modern infrastructure. And I wanted to emphasize with this article, hey, this is possible. This is not some kind of magic, and there are ways to do that without big effort. I also have to say the project was rather manageable, so it wasn't that huge project. It was not like this, as we will see later, having many files and having many templates. But I hope, in summary, you will get that it's now the best time to migrate. Check out the article, and also please let me know what you think about this. If you have any problems with migration and older projects, especially these 1 dot something, and we will see if I can help or even make another article on that.
Thank you. I think Daniel wanted to add something. Daniel?
Yeah. Am I on?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, no, I just want to mention this article is really cool. It was very long though, like the original one about Bun. I really liked it, but man, he really had an axe to grind. That's really good to read. It's a good read, like, yeah. Though. I liked it. But yeah, also the other project you mentioned is, of course, like the main focus of the story about transitioning. And the backwards compatibility of Meteor, right? Something we want to pick up on later as well, maybe.
Terrific. So I just want to remind folks that if you're watching this right now, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel and the episode. And that lets us know that we're doing a good job, and we should continue. And again, as I mentioned in previous episodes, we are trying to get to the 100 subscriber mark so that we can customize our URL. And it just show your appreciation, and it gives us feedback to let us know that we're doing the right thing, and encourages us to continue with this. So thank you. And I think Jan, we've got a little more news, don't we?
Yes, we have a quick summary about Hacktoberfest updates. As you have seen in the main repository, we have been merging a lot of pull requests into 2.14, trying to get everything ready. And I have another session, or actually I'll be meeting with Gabriel Gruban next week sometime to kind of go over the pull requests and see what we can merge and get into 2.14 as soon as possible. Meteor roles, apologies, I am still behind writing the tests. So hopefully if there is peace and quiet in the corporate world, I'll have some time to finish that over the weekend. And we are also looking for a potential release of denormalize, which would have cascading effect through, say, Redis uplog, Gafar, and some other packages as well. Again, I want to shout out our Meteor desktop ongoing work. We have, or specifically Doran, if I'm correct. Yes, Doran has been, or DD137 has been fixing everything, and we are now at 3.1.1 release candidate 1. So that's our second release. We finally got all the tests passing, but that still leaves a lot of things untested. So if you are using Meteor Desktop, please give this a try. Let us know if you encounter any issues, and that would be really helpful, so we can finally release this patch release and fix the Meteor Desktop. Finally, if you want to join into this Hacktoberfest frenzy, you can still do that. I have published a list of packages. Oops, that's the wrong, but a while ago, and there we go. It pretty much is a quick overview of all the different packages that we have and some of the basic initial things that you can do there. So don't be afraid to jump in, or if you have submitted and I haven't responded, ping me or Jan on Slack or any other media, and we'll rectify that situation as soon as possible.
And by the way, if there is a community package that Jan has not listed that you want to make a contribution to, by no means should you think that this list is the only place that you can make a contribution. If you find that there's someplace else that you want to do it, we're happy to have you make those contributions there. These are just a set of edited suggestions to make it easier for you if you don't have an idea where you want to start. Isn't that right, Jan?
Yes, exactly. The ones I have not listed are actually, for the most part, packages that are either outside of the Meteor Community Packages organization, or that we'll have after this. We'll have to go over, Jan, if we are going to keep them or if we are going to completely decommission them.
Okay, and now we're at the end of the news, and we're gonna hit some of our features, starting with our useful resources. I think Storyteller has some information that you can share in terms of using NPM.
Yes. So as you have noticed, probably if you are around Meteor development, we use different like release candidates, betas, and all that stuff. And it's very easy to do just that -rc.1 or something like that, and Meteor knows how to handle that and knows that it's like a preview release, that it shouldn't download it or get it unless you specifically ask for it. The problem is if you use npm publish like this, it just publishes it as the latest release and it will download it to everybody. So there is this useful thing called npm tags, and linked you will find a quick article giving an explainer. And what it is, very simply, you add the option tag and the name of a tag, and that will then be attached to the published version of the package, and it will only get that version of the package if you specifically ask for that tag. So that is how we are publishing the Meteor Desktop npm part of the package under preview tag, so that only people who are actually testing it can get it, and it does not, you don't get it if you are trying to just install the latest version that's as released. So especially going forward with npm packages is something that you should know about. Alan?
I should unmute myself when I speak.
Yeah.
So there you go. So that's terrific. Well, nobody wants to hear me cough, right? So like I mute myself to make sure that you're not sharing in my bronchitis. So thanks a lot on that. And storyteller, I think I want to keep you talking. So I'm going to have you do a shout out today. This is a segment where we are trying to, I don't know if the word is honor, but certainly recognize significant packages, libraries, useful tools that are out there and the people behind them. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about Packosphere today.
Yes. So maybe not everybody knows, but we have this project called Packosphere, which was done by Kelly Copley, who is also behind the socialized packages. And it's a open source alternative to Atmosphere, if I was to sum it up in one sentence. It's built with React, TypeScript, Tailwind, and Gafar. That's kind of its main thing, but it has some additional things that differentiate it from Atmosphere. First and foremost, as you can see here on this screen, it has this Meteor Community Packages logo for packages that are under our management, so we can easily find them. And let's see if we also click here. There is a few other interesting things. Let me just find, for example, this one. Similar, like with Atmosphere, it has all the information that you have there, but it has some extra things. You can notice here it will tell you if it's written in JavaScript, TypeScript, what's the license, what is the status of the GitHub, how many has its stars, issues, all that stuff. And probably not so well-known feature is if you click on these different versions, it will switch the README to that version. So you can see here there are some issues here that are later. If I could come back up, it's different. And if you have, so we can then check out how the README was different through the different versions. So that is very quickly how this is. You will also notice that if you search here, it will be a bit different than on Atmosphere, and that's just because the way the search is done is different. So you might find a bit different results, especially for big or like packages that have many, say, copies as well.
Very good.
Right.
And so I'm going to keep you chatting a little bit there. And we just have a reminder on an upcoming deep dive. I think we all know that we are working on the road to 3.0. And Jan has taken the lead on some of this recently and has some news that he wants to share on it.
All right. So, and the last thing, then I'll probably be spent talking about our future programs. Let's switch to this. Is that we are planning, as was hinted before, a series of special episodes about Meteor 3 and how we get there, what you need to do, all that stuff. We've decided that we'll have, beginning in November, me and Jan are going to have our initial high-level overview episode. We are starting to put our notes together. And then from your feedback, what you will be want to hear, we'll go more in depth and hopefully with guests. And we're also talking about having a Blaze panel as well, and hopefully also get started our interviews with notable people in the community. So be tuned for beginning of November, and in the next 2 episodes, we'll have more information to share with you.
Sorry, guys, just a little bit of a technical error. I have a hotspot on my computer where when I go to it, it puts the logout screen, and I just got myself logged out for a second there, but now I'm back. All right, so that's terrific. What I also want to mention, by the way, is when we talk about people in the community and so on, it also means that we are also reaching out to members of the MeteorJS staff. I'm sorry, the Meteor software staff, and so our hope is that we will, get folks like, Danielson or, Gabriel Gruba or Henrique or Fred himself to join us and be part of that discussion as part of the deep dive. I think it will be a terrific addition if and when they join. And I think I can say with certain degree of confidence that we will get some participation from Meteor software in that deep dive. So really happy to share that. So what we're going to be doing next is we are going to be going into our discussion session, and we haven't really done, I don't think we've done an Understanding Meteor segment in the past. We've kind of lined it up before. Last week we were supposed to do isomorphism, and we kind of pushed it towards this week because we had some nuances that we want to discuss. But we are going to be starting today with the current state of Blaze and Async with Daniel Dornhardt. And Daniel's got a presentation on this and gives us a little deeper understanding of, this part of MeteorJS, this front end. But it also gives us some insight into some complexities that we are facing going forward as we transition to 3.0. So with that, I'm going to have Daniel take over.
Thank you for handing me the mic. Once again, nice to be here. I'm very happy. You're sharing my screen. You can see in my screen. That's nice. I'm very happy. During the last months, I spent a lot of time with Blaze.js, I should say, which is like the official name of the Blaze front-end framework for Meteor. And in one way, it was a little bit dramatic because it's like connected to this transition to Meteor 3.0 and the async. But on the other hand, it gave me a chance to dive much deeper into the whole ecosystem and also to meet again new people. So every crisis bears its chances, I think. And in the recent days and weeks, I was very happy to get to know many people and get this enthusiasm again about the Meteor project, like that many people love it and do love it and are working on it, like you guys. So very happy to be here. Just a general hello, basically. Thank you for having me. My topic is the Meteor async transition, MeteorJS async transition, Meteor tracker auto-run reactivity challenge for existing apps, but actually Blaze.js might get mentioned as well. So this is like a jokey title because it should have been called Blaze.js, but it's all in the context of the 3.0 migration, of course. Who are we? Who am I? I'm Daniel Dornhardt, working for the Trusted Care AG, which is based in Switzerland. We have a small but very beautiful team, if I may say so myself. And we have like lots of experience. I like computers for 36 years, maybe though the first 10 years I maybe only played computer games. But then and Meteor, I know that I think like 10 years, like around 10 years. I didn't count, like since 2012. So I'm a long-time Meteor user and aficionado. The Trusted Care app is be a little less long, but maybe 7 years in the making. So after I cut my teeth on a few Meteor projects, this is the biggest one for sure. We have at least 200,000 lines of code. It's very difficult to count. They're very small. We have like 50 packages in our packages file, in our Meteor packages file. It's like a really big app, and we have so it's all Blaze. We have of course public pubs up, subscriptions, methods. Like we have video calls, we have push notifications, we have bells and whistles, we have Cordova, we have mobile app. So it's a very complex project, and it has worked beautifully so far for us. And now, of course, but we now want to migrate it to Meteor 3. So we started to look at that. And let's say start maybe with Blaze.js. Blaze.js, it used to be basically the main framework. There was another small framework before it, but for the first years of Meteor, it was the major framework for Meteor, I would say, for MeteorJS. And it was very strongly coupled to the auto-run mechanisms, to the tracker, to the pubs-up mechanisms, to everything, to the full-stack reactivity. This was before React, and the component-based frameworks came in, actually. And I think it had a very good run. And for the first years, it was very big. But then after the new frameworks came, which are mostly front-end frameworks came, which have been also like big backers, corporate backers like Facebook for React, obviously. The attention went away from Blaze a bit. And also a few years ago, then the Meteor software company, or maybe it was MDG Group back then, I don't know, the commercial entity behind Meteor at that point, kind of said, okay, we're going to focus on these new frameworks, and Blaze, the community took over Blaze, okay? So the support is not part of the core Meteor offering anymore, but it's still very close, I would say. Why I think Blaze is still great? I think it's a very simple and clean framework to use. It's beautiful. Like, I think the code you can write for it is beautiful, and I think it's really fast to get started with. Basically, it looks like HTML. I don't want to go into it, but I think it's a very elegant framework, and I think you can get started very quickly, and it's also very powerful and very hackable. It has many advantages, but it's very integrated with the whole tracker. It's like really part of the whole full stack reactivity thing. And it comes part and parcel with Blaze, I think, this tracker and these auto runs. So now towards Meteor 3.0. Meteor 3.0 is, of course, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and then go back to this one. Blaze 3.0 is necessary because fibers can't be supported anymore by Node.js, because V8 has skipped the affordances from a few years ago, so Node can't support fibers anymore. Meteor footed strongly on the fibers package to make the front end, the server side, look synchronous, although it wasn't. Now the backend has to be switched to async await, and the problem is because of isomorphism, which we're going to talk later more about, which means like we want to be able to use the same code on the client and on the server, if possible, which has many advantages, but we can talk about it later. If we change the interfaces now on the server to async await, and we want to keep the same code on the client and not duplicate everything, for example, then this forces us to go into the async world in the client too. And this is a little bit of a poisonous pill, at least for Blaze, because once you have one async call anywhere and await anywhere, then you have to await, basically. It's a very big topic, but basically it's very hard to get out of this asynchronicity once you have some async calls in there. So actually, it is surprisingly, surprisingly complex to convert this to async. So maybe a little bit to backwards compatibility. As I said, it has become a community project a few years ago, but Meteor Software expressed its support a few times during the last weeks, also in the forums, and also they paid and supported Radoslav, for example, and others to help with migrating this towards 3.0. But basically, it's still a community project, and it's not the core, I think, of Meteor Software's priorities right now. It's not the top priority, maybe. This is something we could talk about with them. So the problem is isomorphism forces sizing everywhere. And the problem is that the tracker, the auto run, which keeps everything in sync, which is like Excel, right? You can change something somewhere and all the formulas will update the whole sheet automatically, right? This is what Tracker does for Meteor and for Blaze for the front end. And async breaks that mechanism very fundamentally. And there are not a lot of ways around it except of passing certain references around, which is you can do for simple structures, but you can't really fully automate that out of the box with async await. So this is the fundamental problem we have right now with Blaze, is that async breaks the tracker as it was, and finding workarounds is difficult. Patching or making Blaze async aware is difficult, but more so actually I think it's the concept with the tracker and the auto-run mechanisms which make it very difficult. It's not only Blaze, it's also this reactivity. And also one challenge also is that migrating apps is very difficult because everything is connected. As I said, if you start changing at some point, some area, your code to async, you have to change all the calling code in order to be able to await this stuff. And then you have to change all the code which awaits this function and so on. So it's like a chain reaction, and you have to find some patterns. We have some patterns already discovered where we can start how to approach this. I want to document them going forward also to help other people. But this migration is not a simple thing. You cannot just go file by file and just convert it. It is a little bit more complex than that. So this is the main complexity, Tracker and Blaze. So the future of Blaze. I think Blaze has a difficult road ahead. It might be possible to sustain its functionality, but it would be with some trade-offs from elegance-wise, I would say. The future might be actually, for many people, probably to move towards alternatives like React or Svelte or something else, maybe migrating their projects piece by piece or starting writing new stuff at least. And the question is also like, would it be possible to do a major rewrite? This is something I would like to actually not speculate too much on. I think it's highly complicated, and like the question is if there's the motivation for that. This is something to be discussed maybe in the future. The current approaches I think there are like three ways currently for Blaze ahead. One is like a piecemeal asyncification, as we have been doing the last 6 months, I would say. Like we started with asyncifying, making the spacebars templates async aware and not print promise if you return the promise somewhere. Then we started to continue with the Blaze, let's say with the autoruns and the tracker and so on. So we are trying piecemeal to make this all async aware and viable, even though it's not beautiful, but it could be a viable solution, but it would still be a complex thing and it's not finished, I would say. Then yesterday I had a different idea, which could be actually really cool. Like, I think actually it's a really good way, but it's also, this is all strange to explain actually to people because there's wild, lots of stuff going on there actually. Where I could, with a Babel plugin, thank you ChatGPT, I'm very good at Babel plugins now with your help, to take the asynchronous part out of the front-end code to keep Blaze synchronous. That's like a magic trick we could do. So we could like write async code, and on the server it would be async, but on the client it would actually be the good old Blaze purring away like always. But we have to investigate a little bit further. And then there's like also maybe it's going to have to be a mix and match between the solutions because different people have different problems or issues or projects. Let's say some people are more react like other frameworks or other patterns, and it depends on how old the projects are and how they're structured, which direction they would like to choose. So this is a big question. As I said, the rewrite, I think it's a little bit difficult because it's a big ask, and it's like the current Blaze it has its tentacles everywhere in Meteor and in lots of different packages. So if you wanted to really 100% rewrite that, it would be very difficult. It could be a rethinking, a restructuring of Blaze, but then there's the question like, okay, what would be left? Would it be worth it? It would be a recontextualization, a reconceptualization. And also it hasn't been started yet, and because there's kind of a implicit deadline right now for the transition to Meteor 3, which is like the end of April, as far as I got it, 24. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to happen. So this is something we could maybe push towards too, but I don't know yet. This is not yet done or being done. What I think is the current status of this from my perspective, is like we should continue experimenting. Like yesterday, I had this aha moment, right? Because I'm working a long time now with Blaze. Or we could make it in a different way, maybe. Maybe I found a good solution. What very important would be like, how are other frameworks affected, other projects affected, like React projects, like Vue projects, Svelte project, like how is their reactivity and their subscription model? And because it's also based on autorun, how far are these projects? Are there issues, or can they work well with the new structure? Is this easy to mitigate for them, this tracker async cut? Yeah, and I think we need to find out more. I would like to interview some other projects, actually, some other React projects, maybe, if possible. I'm going to ask in the forum, maybe, if somebody's interested, please ping me. Feel free on Slack or on the forums to walk me through their project, how you do it. I would be very interested. We have this panel discussion coming up, I hope, because it's a very multidimensional problem. This is like, has many angles, and it's not easy to compress like I just tried to, okay? It's very difficult to think through. And so I think it would be very valuable to have multiple people contribute in a little bit more time, maybe. So I'm really hoping that the community will get further involved again and contribute their findings and work, how they are doing with the migration and what things they encounter with the migration. So this
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as you could probably tell from the discussion, it's a very, very involved and nuanced set of issues that are facing this project. And we have talked to Daniel about putting together a panel where we could get into a much deeper dive into the details of this. And we'd, of course, because this is so involved, and I think trying to just speak to it from just pure language without seeing code is not as helpful as it would be if we were able to do this kind of discussion with some source code to help illuminate that. All right, so Daniel, thank you so much for sharing this.
Thank you. Sorry for oversharing. Maybe it was a bit much.
No, it's okay. And I think people have gotten a good sense of just the level of complexity that we are looking at in terms of the impact that moving to 3.0 is going to have on maintaining the sort of magic that you had with using Blaze with core Meteor. So again, I believe that we have a longer discussion to engage with on this. And if you guys are interested, give us a comments in the Slack. I'm sorry, give us a comments in the comments section, or use the feedback form to let us know more. Or I think we have a link to this in the description afterwards.
Yeah, we have a link to the original article that Daniel posted on the forums, which is right now on the screen.
So, join in on that forum discussion and fill it in. So we have one more discussion between, well, it's not really between, there's going to be a little bit of a handoff on isomorphism and what it is and some of the challenges that, beyond what Daniel has described so far, we have seen from some other aspects. And I think you're gonna find this to be very interesting. So as Daniel mentioned before, isomorphism, part of the discussion on isomorphism, it's been a discussion long going on in the JavaScript community of what this thing is. And Meteor has its own, interpretation of it. So for a while, part of the discussion of isomorphism has been this notion of being able to use JavaScript as your programming language on the front end, the middle tier, and the back end entirely. And when Meteor came along, and also the other part is being able to use functional components that you write for one portion of your application elsewhere. So you could write the same source code for doing some kind of computation on the server, but it would also happen in the client. Maybe it would also happen in the back end. And because Meteor is built on MongoDB, MongoDB's REPL is basically a JavaScript REPL. You can execute JavaScript there. You can write JavaScript functions and so on. So you have it there on the server side of Meteor, you are, of course, writing JavaScript. And then, of course, for most modern browsers, if you want to do any kind of transformation, you do it with JavaScript. Part of the historic distinction on that also is prior to more recent versions of CSS, you couldn't do any kind of programmatic computation without JavaScript. Now you can do some stuff with the latest versions of that. But back then, if you wanted to modify your HTML or your CSS, you had to do it using JavaScript. The modern implementations are a lot more flexible now for both HTML and for CSS. So that vision of where you would make your changes has grown, evolved, however you might want to see it. And the idea of being able to use a single language is good because you don't have to do all this context switching in terms of like the different paradigms for different languages, or maybe your reserve words, or the different elements, how you actually do loops or how you do branching. So when you remove that overhead, it allows developers to be far more productive. But there are some shortcomings because it doesn't quite work out so well, because not everything that you do in the client, which has a DOM, right, is transferable to the server, and not things that you do on the server where you might have access to a database is accessible, or a file system is accessible necessarily in the client. So those are some of the things that as you go through this notion of isomorphism and the promises that it has, is a little bit of of something that we face as a shortcoming. But because you've been able to use JavaScript code from the database, the server, and the client, and been able to share some code, historically it's been part of the MeteorJS identity. Now, there's been a Slack conversation that Jan started on 3.0 with regard to some issues that they were facing with APIs. And I want to turn this part of the conversation over to Küster so that he can talk about the more developer-facing issues that we are seeing today and what it means in terms of preserving these notions of isomorphism in Meteor 3.0.
Yes. I actually have to refer to an older episode again. We already covered this topic once in an older episode where I tried the React tutorial, but with a Meteor 3.0 alpha version. And my findings were mostly about incompatibilities. But I also found, or I was a little bit surprised that there were still these async methods named async, like insert async, update async, remove async, or for the cursors, count async. And I was sure when reading the initial discussions that these terms will be removed. And the argument why they were remaining is due to isomorphism. So we have the situation that on the server, these things have to be async because the fibers are removed. But on the client, we have the situation that they don't necessarily need to be async. They can also be sync because that's the browser environment. There was no fiber even before. That was the nice part of the isomorphism with fibers. You had this code that is written in sync style, and it worked on the server as it worked on the client. So I think here we need more discussion on that thing, because I personally would like to prefer would prefer to have these async names removed. And at the same time, I would also vouch for making these methods async in Minimongo and on the client as well as on the server. But
Okay. Looks like we had a malfunction there with Jan. Let's give him a moment to come back and see if we can do something here from our end. In the meantime, Zoran is writing that the async names are really stupid names for functions. And he's gone. So
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I think Küster's going to try to come back in, so we're going to give him a moment or two.
yeah.
And in the meantime, let me see here. I'll just start a little bit with our reminders. We have Hacktoberfest. We're in the middle of it right now. Please participate if you can. If you remember from the previous episodes, we have this project called Awesome Meteor, where we are trying to catalog the different places that Meteor is, packages that are very useful, implementations that people have, and of course, key people that are involved in the Meteor community. So if you go to the project, and we have a link in the show notes later on, down in the description. If you go there and you don't see something that you think should be in it, please put a pull request in so that we can include it. And as always, we're asking you to like, share, and subscribe the episode. And let's see, I think Küster's not back yet. No. So if Jan, can I ask you to just take over for a section and maybe share some interesting news on something that you have seen recently? While
I'll
try to get in touch
actually,
with Küster.
or I can kind of continue a little bit. Let me just get situated on the notes. So we've talked about how, we've kind of finished off with how it's nice to have, both, synchronous, you could say, on the client and the server and all that stuff, which as it was kind of core Meteor identity. If you even look, and this was on Meteor Impact a few years back. Just trying to think of the name that escapes me. Abigail Watson. She brought to life some of the original examples of here we go, maybe back original examples of Meteor that kind of wowed the world. If you can remember, it was like, hey, click here on the map, join here the meeting, and a few others, and how they were done at that time, also very naively. It was, what today we know as the insecure package. So, and I think maybe an auto-publish, so you could from the client, write MongoDB queries and insert stuff to the database from the client and stuff like that. So in a way, happier world where we trusted people more. But
I think at the end of this all, what Jan was getting to was, the question is isomorphism as a concept still key to the identity of Meteor? And if it is, one of the things we want to do is then take a look at these changes to the API that break that behavior. And he was pointing out very specific examples of where that's happening. And if we wanted to get back to that, because we feel that that is something that is important, then perhaps the team that is doing the upgrades right now to MeteorJS should revisit the changes that they've made and make the accommodation so that the code, the isomorphic behavior of code would still occur within Meteor. So I think that's effectively.
I kind of want to kind of point to that, but that also kind of add a caveat that I would necessarily that not to keep it, but I think there will be changes that we might have to adapt different patterns, something like that Daniel was getting at with one of the options of how you have to write the function completely differently to keep the isomorphism and stuff like that. So I think that is going to be the biggest fight, because historically Meteor has been very good with backward compatibility.
Mhm.
And I think, and especially I think this kind of how with Meteor 3 is this is one of the releases where it just won't be possible to do it like one-on-one and maybe change just little thing over here. It's a significant change. So I think that is kind of the biggest battle, or as I battle, but discussion and approaches that will probably clash about how to do this properly, because of the people saying no, it needs to be exactly as it was with Meteor 1. Function calls, all that stuff, and others who will be more of kind of breaking things, kind of what we saw with as let me put this here. Yeah, as Zoran in the comments posted that adding async at the end of the function is really stupid name for a function. While it might look bad at first, personally, in a way it kind of has probably grown on me, because then I know if it has like the async there, I need to use await async, and I cannot call it synchronously, all that stuff. So even if it's like maybe looks stupid, it has some interesting functions. So I think this will be kind of the big one. And as Daniel, as you have mentioned, that kind of, or as Janas as well, kind of how do we ensure that this keeps being how we like it. Daniel, Alan, if you want to jump in on that.
Can you hear me? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
So I just want to, I think it's just to add one thing, and it's just because it just occurred to me too. Like, I think maybe it's really just a different in perspectives between like the classic Meteor, right, which we're very used to apparently. Like we're like old school and used to this fully integrated things. But I think for a few years, actually, Meteor has been used more as a platform, and then React and Vue on top may actually have different patterns and may have established patterns. So it would be really important for me to get insight into that world and have some people explain how they work from that side. So this is something which would be really valuable, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because be it React, Vue, Svelte, all of these have a different way how they have like their life cycles, how they work. So that might be, and since Blaze, especially now, is mostly community maintained, or at least I personally am a React guy, so and it's been a while since I've really done anything in Blaze, so I am kind of in the React mindset of the data. So that's also a very good point that we'll have to.
So you're going to have to show me around your project soon.
Yes.
So I think what comes out of this is that there is a lot of different opinions on where this goes, and I guess it goes back to the heart of the question, whether or not isomorphism, as it's implemented in Meteor, historically, is something that is key to Meteor's identity. And whether or not, in terms of moving forward, does that hold us back? Is trying to maintain that type of isomorphism that we've had in the past something that we want to hold on to? Or, is the world evolving so much that this concept is meaningless in this form anymore? I think we probably should, poll and see if others will have some other opinions. I don't want to spend too much more time because this is going a little long, but Min has a comment here. It's like you have two options on the client side. I personally don't use isomorphic code. I prefer to use sync versions on the client side. So this is in reaction, by the way. I should have put this first. It's Sebastian had asked if he prefers isomorphism or sync mini Mongo fetch on client side and fetch async on the server side. And that's when Min wrote this. So there's a private conversation going on separately. in the comments right now. It's very interesting to see. And thank you guys for your input here. I think if you believe that it's worth it, we may want to do this as a hot topic, which would be a separate episode, and we could bring people in. And it would not be news like we're doing right now with a little bit of elaboration, but it would be a real serious discussion. Or perhaps maybe we would revive the meetups and go forward and have focus on that at some point. And it looks like Daniel doesn't want to have this as a hot topic. Why would that be, Daniel?
No, I'm always just more about I really like serious discussions interspersed with some really, really bad jokes, just to keep the mood up.
Oh, okay. So you were joking back
the
there.
energy, just to hear. But yeah. I'm fully on you, with you. This is highly interesting and a bit complex, but also interesting and challenging. I think it's very interesting. And going forward, I think we're going to hear a lot more about it. And
I mean, I don't think we'll hear these topics discussed in any other, media platform or framework. This is very, very much a MeteorJS focused item. And I think for the folks that are here that want to learn more about Meteor, that are relatively new, this is a really great way, if we have these discussions, to learn a little more about how the internal workings go. And also for the people that have been here for a very long time, who are thinking about the future and thinking about their apps and what's limiting and stopping their apps from evolving further, it's someplace where they can take that discussion and have input. So
Alan, there is just one more comment that I want to address also from Ming, talking about, I don't think client side, you work with MongoDB, it's Minimongo. This is to reference how I was talking, how it used to be, and the insecure package. Ming is absolutely correct here. That's how it works. But in the past, what you could have, you have the collections like users collection dot insert, and that could be just on client side. And the way with insecure package, how it was, you could do that, and it would then write into the server database as well as in your local Minimongo. So, and Jan is back for his final thoughts.
I don't know if you've been able to follow along with everything that we've been going on with there, Jan, but if you want to, do you remember? I don't know if you remember what you were saying before we lost the audio on you.
Yes, I'm really sorry. My provider is not worth it. Is their money? That's crazy. Actually, just some closing words here. I think this is a topic that affects all of us, and I think isomorphism is something that is, at least to me, saved me so much time during development. This is also, from a domain-driven design aspect, a huge factor, because this is a part of correctly designing my software fitting the domain. But here's the thing, if it affects all of us, and at least I want to vouch again that we want to have proper naming, it will also help with the migration, because I have projects I didn't migrate yet. So that's all written in the correct naming. And if we can remove these async names and at the same time find a solution to keep up with the isomorphism, then there will be lots of time saving and also less errors. And I think we have to, as a community, we have to engage more into discussion on that again. That's what I want to say.
Yes, and one of the things we mentioned while you were not here is that if the community is interested, we can move this into a hot topic discussion panel and get more people involved in that. And of course, if you are interested, you have design ideas, you have concerns, you have encountered some issues with this and you want to share them, let us know if you would like to participate in that hot topic discussion panel and be part of what you see up here. Okay, and with that, I would like to just say, hey, we are at the end of this all, and coming up next week, we should expect some news on a new 3.0 release, which supports NPM 9. And we have some further shout outs with regard to Meteor-Files and the dangerous doctor behind that. So thank you all for joining us this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.